this tropical update this morning, we have Tropical Storm BERYL, which became a named system last evening, and it is going to be making its way toward the Windward Islands, potentially as a major hurricane. So that is something on the table right now. And a hurricane watch has been issued. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So good morning, guys. I'm Dani'i, and I'm here with the latest update. And so here we are looking at the satellite imagery of the North Atlantic. We have a disturbance that is crossing over Central America. It's headed to the Southern Gulf and is given a 40% chance of development. So we could see it try to get itself together and potentially even become a depression before moving in. But regardless, it is a rainmaker for that general area. Next, we can see, let's zoom in a bit more here. We can see that there is some activity moving across parts of the southeastern islands. That is in association with a tropical wave moving through. So there's been some increase in rain, and that is all ahead of Tropical Storm BERYL. So BERYL became an officially named storm last night in the 11 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, and we can see it churning. This thing is going to be intensifying over the coming days, and as I mentioned, there is a hurricane watch in effect, and that watch is for Barbados. So as we're going to be heading into tomorrow night and Monday morning, hurricane conditions, tropical storm to hurricane conditions will be possible in Barbados, and other islands, Windward Islands, will likely be under a tropical storm warning or tropical storm watch as we head throughout today. So we're going to see some additional watches being issued. But for now, BERYL is out there and she is strengthened. But behind BERYL is an area of disturbed weather which may develop and take on a similar path. And so some of the areas, or many of the areas that would be affected by BERYL, could be affected by this next system, which may become a strong tropical storm. So we're going to be looking at the forecast for that as well. Here is the latest for it. We can see that the National Hurricane Center designates a 50% chance of development for this general area here. So it is going to be some distance behind BERYL, and it is likely to develop as well. So it's going to be a back-to-back scenario here with these tropical systems. Going on to what is expected, let's look at the National Hurricane Center's cone forecast as of this morning. We can see that little pink spot right there. So Barbados is highlighted with a hurricane watch. So as I mentioned, a hurricane watch is in effect. So those hurricane conditions will be likely mostly on Monday. And the National Hurricane Center is also expecting peak winds to be 110 miles per hour. So when I made my updates video last evening, it was 105. So now they have raised that to 110, and that is just below the threshold of major hurricane status. So NHC is definitely expecting a stronger system than initially, and I talked about it as well yesterday, that sometimes the initial advisories are conservative. So we may actually see the system being a bit stronger than what is expected, although that is not a guarantee. So it is likely to make its way by, and it is going to be entering the Eastern Caribbean. Now, as it is going to be continuing by Wednesday, headed to Thursday, this thing could potentially make landfall in Jamaica. We can see that this line here showing the potential path of the system goes through the eastern and parts of the northern island. So BERYL could potentially make landfall in Jamaica as a hurricane. However, some weakening of it is expected due to an increase in wind shear, those upper level winds. So that is going to be on the table. Nonetheless, it could be a Category 1 hurricane as it makes its way toward the vicinity of Jamaica. And we're bound to see some shifts in this, maybe a bit further north, maybe a bit further south. So that is a possibility as well. The further out in time we go, the more uncertainty is there. So we could see this track being adjusted. But nonetheless, if you're in Jamaica, be on watch, my fellow Jamaicans, and even the Cayman Islands as well, for late next week. So I'll be keeping you posted though. Now, going on to the model track guidance, here we can see that the models are still pretty much locked in about the general track expected of BERYL over the course of the next few days. We do see some dispersions as some of these tracks, two of these tracks showing that the system is going to be more on a westward track, and we can see that the rest of them are tightly packed about that track within the vicinity of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. So Only time will tell what's going to be happening, but the models are consistent. And in regards to the intensity, as well as we head further out in time, we can see that a decent amount of models are expecting that BERYL will at least become a Category 2 or Cat 3 hurricane. So we do see some agreement with regards to major hurricane status being achieved by BERYL. And the stronger it gets, the worse or the more intense the magnitude of the impacts will be for the areas to be affected, especially the Windward Islands. So parts of the southern Leeward Islands, such as Dominica and the Windward Islands, will be feeling the worst of it. Even as far south as Trinidad and Tobago, there could be those tropical storm force winds and some periods of heavy rain, which may result in flooding. So the main concern is going to be the water, and of course the winds. I mean, if the system is just below major hurricane strength, those winds are going to be capable of doing some damage, especially to weaker homes. And so guys, I do urge you to prepare, especially if you're in Barbados, where there's that hurricane watch now in effect. If you're in somewhere that easily floods when it rains heavily, I do implore you to make some arrangements so that, as the system approaches, you can be in a safer location. And there are going to be those shelters opening, not just for Barbados, but anywhere else that would be under the watches or the warnings. And then down the road, as I mentioned, for Jamaica, we definitely have to be keeping our eyes on what is happening. But as we're going to be heading into the new week, we'll get a much better idea of where the system is really trod into. Now, I also want to show you guys the conditions out there, more so the sea surface temperature anomaly. As we see more of these shades of yellows and oranges, that is indicative of warmer than normal temperatures. We can see that BERYL is heading straight into that general area that is highly conducive, unusually conducive for intensification. And that is going to be a huge help for it, because the primary fuel that any tropical cyclone needs is the very warm waters, and BERYL is headed straight into that. And for now, the upper level winds, the wind shear isn't going to be a huge problem with it intensifying, but there's definitely some dry air around. So we'll see how it behaves throughout the day. We'll see how much more it is going to strengthen, but steady to rapid strengthening is expected of BERYL. And in terms of the Caribbean region, now let's look at the rainfall forecast for today. So as I mentioned, that tropical wave is within the vicinity of the Lesser Antilles. It's helping to enhance some rainfall. So we could see some additional heavy downpours in parts of Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana, and that may result in flooding. Even Trinidad and Tobago, there's been some flooding, some street flooding yesterday, so we could see some additional heavy downpours which may cause more flooding across some areas. Some decent rain also possible for Grenada, the Grenadines, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica. But as we head further north, Guadeloupe, going further to the rest of the Leeward Islands, there may not be as much rainfall today, but there could definitely be some showers passing by. Barbados, there could definitely be some decent downpours. ABC Islands, few showers around. And then as we head to the Greater Antilles and the Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, there could definitely be a few showers here and there. Similar story for much of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands. And then, of course, the vicinity of Central America will be active with that disturbance moving in. So for parts of Belize and Mexico, there could definitely be some heavy rain, some flood triggering rain in the area. But Central America on a whole will likely be active throughout today. So that is what is anticipated, guys. Again, we've got BERYL. It is strengthening. Winds are now at 50 miles per hour. When it became a named storm last night, it was at 40, and steady to rapid intensification is expected of it. So again, that hurricane watch is in effect for Barbados, and as we head throughout the day, more areas will likely be under tropical storm warnings and potentially even more hurricane watches as well. So I will be keeping you posted, as I always do, and that is it for right now. So I do hope you found this update to be informative, but please, if you do have any questions, if you want clarity about anything, please leave that down in the comments. I'll get to you once I have the chance to do so. And remember to always be weatherwise.